Okay guys, today we are going to teach you how to stop flipping your hands correctly. In my opinion, there is so much bad information on the internet about how to do this. I see way too many golfers trying to do it by just holding off on their hands forever or just trying to manufacture something at the bottom, when the reality is flipping is usually a byproduct of some poor sequencing that's happening between the hands and the body. If we can actually clean this up, organically, you'll actually stop flipping your hands over at impact. So what is flipping really? To me, flipping is much more of if you're somebody who has effectively too much forearm rotation through the ball. So usually the visual you will see is the toe of this club head will turn over really, really fast through impact. So you'll see the toe kind of twisted down, right? Everybody wants that tour player, that famous look of, the body's rotated open through impact, the hands are working around the body, and the club is still in frame, right? This is what we want to see more of, a little bit less of this guy where the hands are turning over, face is turned down, a lot of club face rotation. It's really hard to control my strike, and it's really hard to control my face angle and my start line if I'm going to have that much activity at the bottom in that short of a time frame. So what we want to do is we want to stop that flipping, but there are good and bad ways to do it. The reason why I use those terms is because the bad ways, or the less effective ways in my opinion, are when people are trying to isolate this through the hands and arms themselves. Sometimes you can create some form of a station to allow you to do that. I do believe it's going to be very short-lived, because as soon as the body stops moving, the hands are going to be forced to turn over. So the reason why I say the body plays a big role in this is because I actually believe if you get the body moving well, you'll naturally arc the hand path around you to stop flipping the club over. Because that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is if you want to stop that club face rotation, we need to get these hands arcing inwards through impact. Because as these hands work more around me, what I'm basically doing is I'm taking this club and I'm keeping it in the frame, and I'm not actually applying an aggressive force in this fashion. Why, when my body stops rotating, do I naturally flip the hands over? Why is that something that happens? Think about this. If I'm coming in a little bit more from the inside of this golf ball, and all of a sudden my body stops rotating over, well, I am putting no force to this club to get this club face back to the ball to square it up. So what happens? Well, if I just kind of slide a little bit and I don't really have a lot of rotation, I'm going to keep this club face wide open if I don't do something crazy. So naturally, as soon as these body stalls, right, as soon as my body stops creating a rotational component to it, the only way I can possibly square this club face up, I need some element of twisting of the handle or manipulation of the club through impact in order to make sure I don't just hit a massive block. Because if I'm coming from the inside of this ball and I never rotate, right, and I hold on, which I'll see a lot of golfers do, they'll just hold on forever to stop flipping the club, well, my club face is going to be open at impact. That ball is just going to shoot so far right, it's either going to be a shank or it's just going to be a huge push fade. Naturally, we don't want to be doing that, so as soon as the body stalls for a lot of golfers, you'll see their athleticism take over, and you'll see a lot of club face rotation. So in order for us to make sure that we don't flip at it or create an environment where you're forced to flip at it, the body needs to rotate. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work on a lot of stations and drills that will incentivize the body to turn. And if I incentivize the body to turn, my hand path, because my chest rotating and my shoulder opening, arcs inwards, club face stops flipping over at impact. So how can we go about this? Well, the famous drill that people do that I'm not crazy about, just so that we can actually take a step back and explain it, is the one where they have the club between the lead hand and the grip, right? And then everybody's talking about, well, if I flip my hands over through impact, the club is going to whack me on the side of the body, or the alignment stick in this case is going to whack me. I'm not crazy about this drill because number one, it's going to bruise you long term. I see so many people come to me later and they're like, it actually hurts. Why would I keep working on it? I agree, you shouldn't. But also, if I have the club here through my grip and I'm using this as a training aid to stop flipping, number one, it's doing the work for me. When something's doing the work for you, are you really getting better? I personally don't think so, because the second you take this out, guess what's going to happen, right? It was doing the work for you. If it doesn't exist, there's nothing to do the work for you. You're going to flip at the bottom. But also, you're independently trying to do this through the hands and arms. And really, all you're trying to do at this point is to hold on, but you're creating an isolated movement through the hands. The body's still not moving very well. As soon as you get onto the golf course and you're under pressure, if the body stalls, guess what's going to happen? You're going to flip. It's inevitable. And again, if the training is not there, even more so. I still like the idea of using the alignment stick. The difference is we're going to use it as a visual cue for the rotation of our body, because the rotation of your body is what's going to help you to actually stop flipping effectively. So you're going to take this alignment stick, you're going to put it through your 2 front belt loops. I'm actually wearing a belt here. I'm a big advocate of wearing a belt when you do this, because if you don't, there's nothing to support the alignment stick when it's through the belt loops, and it tends to dangle a lot, and eventually it'll slide out. When it's actually clipped through my belt loops, but also like behind the belt, you can see how stable this actually stays. It's very effective. So I'll have most of the alignment stick sticking out of the front side here. You can kind of see it's not really 50-50. It's kind of more leaning towards one side. The reason I do this is because if it is 50-50, oftentimes golfers are going to fear hitting it with their trail arm, and sometimes you might actually, so I would rather not have that be even an obstruction or a worry. And then really what we're going to do is very simple. We're going to work on a visual cue where we are going to work on a lot of rotation of the body by using the alignment stick as that visual reference. So the more I can get that, in this case the orange stick, actually turning out of the way, the more my chest can get out of the way, the more my hands are going to arc inside, and I won't actually flip at it when I do it. So I always suggest starting with a lot of 1/2 and 3/4 shots when you're doing this, just because it'll be really hard for you to go at it right away and trying to do something different with your body that you're not quite accustomed to, right? So start with a lot of 1/2 and 3/4 swings where you're just getting the sensation of, like, you know, stopping your swing roughly here, and then really you're controlling the entire motion through the orange stick and having it be a visual. You'll notice as you do this, you might feel some pressure moving towards the heel side of your front foot, because at the end of the day, we're rotating in this direction. So if we're looking at a heel to toe bias, it'll want to naturally move more towards the heel of your foot, okay? This is going to be the first drill. I'll show you a second one in a second that you can actually blend in with this as well. But basically, you're going to start with some 1/2 and 3/4 swings. So we're going to set up, right? We're going to walk into the ball. We're going to use the orange stick as a visual cue. And then we're going to try to leave the hands alone as much as possible, so not really applying any sort of force to the hands, almost like a little dead-handed. And really what we're going to do here is just feel the pressure going towards the heel of our front foot and using the orange stick as a visual cue. And if we rotate better through the ball, we in theory should not flip at it. You'll start to notice the ball's going to come out with a lot less of a height, so a lot lower launch, a lot lower trajectory, and you should feel like your hands are doing very little through impact here. So kind of a half swing and really working on a lot of rotation of the body. You'll notice I'm not really flipping here. My hands are finishing in front of me. Trajectory is going to come down naturally when you do this. So I hit 5 down on that golf ball. And obviously it's going to help you to start the ball a little bit more to the right in my case, if I'm somebody who flips and has a tendency of hitting hooks where the ball starts left and keeps going left. We're finding ways to correct that. If you want to actually take this drill a step further as you're doing it, and you really want to get rid of any sort of hand application or activity at impact, you can even take this trail hand, and as you're gripping the club, you actually remove the fingers from the grip. So this is a famous drill. I posted this online before. Basically, the idea is rather than having both hands on the club where this trail hand can very easily apply a force to flip this club over, right? Well, what you're going to do is you're actually going to take the fingers off the club so that we're using the palm of the hand purely for support. Still gripping it the same way on my lead hand, right? The hand that has the glove on it. But the trail hand, it's only resting on the side of the palms and my fingers are kind of extended. The reason here is because now I'm basically taking the trail hand out of the equation where I can't scoop at it and I can't apply any sort of force to flip this club over. So if I don't, now because I can't really close it through the trail hand because I'm taking the fingers out of the equation, if I don't rotate well, I'm just going to hit a huge block out to the right. Oftentimes when people work on this drill, the first couple of times they do it, they'll either shank it or just hit these huge blocks to the right because they're not necessarily aware yet of how much their body needs to rotate in order to stop flipping at it. So it basically creates an environment where the only way I can hit that ball solid and online, I really have to rely on a lot of rotation of my body. It's a good drill for somebody who's starting out trying to create that rotation and not flip at it. So we're going to recreate the same idea we just did with the last swing where the alignment stick was through our belt loops. We're still using this as a visual cue, right? The only difference in this case is I'm not going to be actually flipping my hands over. That's the idea. So again, same setup, same alignment stick idea. Now I'm taking this trail hand. I'm taking my normal grip first just to feel comfortable in my setup, and then I'm removing the fingers from the club, just extending them, and it's resting on the palm of the hand. Even I might not hit this perfectly the first time, right? It's going to be hard for everybody, and you're going to notice how much we're going to have to rely on our body in order to make solid contact with this golf ball. And again, I actually hit that one pretty good. Honestly, that kind of surprised myself too. And you'll notice I actually started that ball to the right. So if I'm somebody who is aggressively flipping at impact and I'm hitting a lot of pull hooks, right? Well, this really incentivizes my body to turn, and it gets rid of any sort of flip, so I can start to stabilize this club face a little bit better and not have the toe turn down to the ground so fast. So now I'm starting to hit a little bit of a push, which is fine because that's kind of what's expected as you're going through this exercise. So really two good ways that you can actually blend together to start to incentivize the body to turn. And this, to me, is going to be the correct and more efficient way to actually get rid of flipping at impact.